Hello and welcome to Patrick's Models and History today. So we're having a look at some of my collection of Pentru Patrie magazines. So what is the Pentru Patrie magazine? The Pentru Patrie magazine is a magazine published by the Romanian Ministry of Interior with all the information on the various bodies of the Ministry of Interior. So here we're having a look at the 1989 issue, so we'll talk about Ministry of Interior troops, the fire brigade, the militia, which then became the police. But I'm not really leafing through any of them now. I'm just having a look at some of the covers, which are very, very interesting. So I'm going to catalogue. These all belong to my wife's grandfather, who of course had a subscription. He was a war veteran, and he'd also been the mayor of his village in the old days. And yes, he was a member of the Communist Party, of course. And he didn't agree much on having a sort of communist king. He didn't agree much on that, but he was a very interesting man. And anyway, let's have a look at the covers. So here we see two soldiers, Romanian soldiers, in M73 helmets and very traditional Romanian uniform, which is absolutely the classic depiction of a Romanian soldier. You see lots of photographs. If you see all the images and the footage of the Romanian Revolution, very nice uniforms in my opinion. Here we see some more. This is 1983 issue. As an officer, these are Ministry of Interior troops, I think, by the collar patches. I don't know what they say here. Here, of course, there's all sorts of propaganda. New measures are being put in place to increase the salaries of workers. Okay. Oh. And look who's here. The man himself. Ceausescu. Of course, the planned economy wasn't really working very well, but I'm not voicing an opinion. It's just, this is history. This is a magazine of 1983, so it's a matter of looking at history and understanding the consequences of that history, even in the present day. And the mistakes that experience produced. So yes, the picture on the cover refers to the army, because it says 25th of October. It's the Army Day of the Romanian Socialist Republic. Here we have a picture of the town. Here's the new constructions, the socialist dream of all the blocks, which even in this case here, in socialist countries, in Romania, systemization of cities, blocks, destruction of old neighborhoods, but the same thing happened in the West. The same thing happened in Glasgow. Glasgow was where I was born. A very similar architectural experience. The same things happened there. So there was a story in Glasgow, for example, in the 1960s, and they were, demolishing whole districts. It was in full swing, and they had a group of German engineers and architects came to visit Glasgow, to talk about town planning and see the local experience, and they saw all this destruction, and they sort of said, well, yes, I suppose this was also due to our bombing. And one of the Glaswegians just said, no, we did this. Your bombing was somewhere else. We did this all ourselves. Anyway, let's go back to Romania in 1983. Or 89, sorry, this is 89. Very nice photographs of the Fire Brigade. Fire Brigade in Romania is a military corps. They are part of the, controlled by the Ministry of Interior, but they're a military corps. In fact, they're pompieri militari, military fire brigade. They have military rank. And I remember when I first came to Romania 20 years ago, there was still compulsory military service, and there were boys who were doing their military service in the fire brigade. Here's an article about, this was an operation, Moara de Vânt. This is Operation Windmill. And I don't know what they were after. Something happened here. Oh, there was a mortal accident in this case here. Anyway, this is the 1989 issue. 1983, sorry, 83. I'm getting bamboozled. And this is the 1989 with the soldiers. Oh, there's Columna fără sfârșit. The column with no end of Brancuș in Târgu Jiu. That's definitely worth a visit. Okay. Tovarășul Nicolae Ceaușescu is mentioned again as usual. Here he is. Hello. Blah, blah, blah. Here's some more pictures of soldiers. Romanian M73 helmet is a very nice helmet. It was based on the Dutch helmet. The Romanians call M39, which was actually a Dutch helmet. Romania had chosen the Dutch helmet because it was a good quality helmet, more modern than Adrian helmet they were using before in World War I, and it continued using even throughout World War II for second line troops. And it was very distinctive. You could recognize, you could distinguish Romanian soldiers from their potential adversaries, meaning Hungarians who were wearing M16s or M38 German outline helmets, Bulgarians who had an M36, German, which also looked quite German in design. Of course, then we had the Soviets who wore either M36 or M39, M40 helmets. The only neighbors that were not really worried about were the Yugoslavs, who also wore an M15 Adrian helmet, because the relations with Serbia have always been, with Yugoslavia and Serbia have always been very good. There's a clear border between Romania and Serbia, the Danube, and even when Yugoslavia was invaded in 1941, the Romanians, who were led at that point, the leader was General Antonescu, refused to take part in the invasion and partition of Yugoslavia, because they said, we do not have any issues with Yugoslavia. This is something that the Serbs have remembered. And the relations are good. Relations with Serbia are good. But anyway, I don't know why I'm wandering away into history now, but anyway, going back to the M73 helmets, Ceausescu, so the M39 Dutch helmet remained in service. Then during the socialist period, the first part of the socialist period, the Romanian army started re-equipping with Soviet-style helmets, M40. In fact, if you see certain images in parades, that's a helmet that appears during the 23rd of August parade. That was the National Day, because the 23rd of August 1944 is the moment when there's a royal coup which overthrows the Antonescu government, and Romania changed sides, stopped fighting, was no longer an ally of the Germans, and it began fighting the Germans, and then it liberated the country, liberated northern Transylvania, which had been occupied by the Hungarians after the Vienna Diktat, and then they fought all the way into Slovakia. My wife's grandfather was a border guard between Romania and Hungary, and he went all the way to Slovakia, going through Budapest. He suffered frostbite, all sorts of things, but he used to tell us very interesting stories about the war. Anyway, I'm more in the military department right now. So Ceausescu, where is he? There he is. You don't, in the pre-1989 ones, you'll always get a picture of him. just turn the first cover. Ceausescu followed a form of national communism, trying to sort of, keep a foot in the door with the West, a foot in the door with the East, with the Soviets. And of course, with national communism, you wanted to distinguish your soldiers from the sort of general overall Warsaw Pact look. Not all Warsaw Pact members had a Soviet look, but let's say that the Soviet style helmet was the most common one which was used throughout the Warsaw Pact. It was used by the Hungarians, it was used by the Czechs, the Czechoslovaks, mainly by the Hungarians and the Czechoslovaks, because the Bulgarians had maintained their old M36 helmets, and then they had introduced a new helmet, the M72, which they practically copied the Italian M33 because they had been given quite a lot of them by the Soviets after the war. It's a clone of the Italian M33. Itself looks a little bit like the Soviet helmet because the Soviets inspired their M40 helmet. They based it on the Italian M33 because the Italian M33 was the very first sort of shell, sort of rounded helmet. The Italians introduced that in 1933-34, so everybody else copied it. Anyway, going back to the M73, they decided to go back to a sort of the typical silhouette of the Romanian soldier, which is the M73 helmet. And it's based, it's a sort of modernized and more compact version of the Dutch, which is, I think, the Dutch M34, now I can't remember very well, but it was anyway, in Romania it was the M39 because it was adopted in 1939. And this helmet remained in service in second line troops. Well, it remained all through until the suspension of military service in Romania. I remember seeing some footage even of in artillery units of about 10 years ago, because we have to remember the thing talking about helmets is that steel helmets have no expiry date because they're made of steel. As long as the helmet is not rusty and its liner is in good condition, it's eternal. A composite helmet, which is made of ballistic plastics, nylons or whatever, Kevlar, has an expiry date. After plastic ages. And so in second line and training units, it's much cheaper to just keep using the steel helmets. Because if you're a steel helmet is not designed, nor is a composite Kevlar, let's say, helmet designed to sustain a direct, to protect you from a direct hit from a bullet. Maybe a glancing bullet, shrapnel, flying debris, etc., etc. Straight on hit, it's goodbye. Anyway, the M73 was reintroduced to give the Romanian soldier a Romanian look again. And if you see the images in the revolution, there's a very interesting photograph where you see soldiers wearing the M73, the old M39 Dutch helmet, and one bloke is wearing a Soviet-style helmet. Because, of course, you continue using all the equipment you've got. You don't throw away anything. That's the interesting thing. And here we've got a later image. This is in 1991. And they, after the revolution, introduced camouflage. And this is a soldier. He's a gendarme, because the Ministry of Interior troops, the troops of Securitate, security, internal security troops, then became, after the revolution, they changed name, and they became the troops of the Gendarmerie. So Romania nowadays, modern day, has the police and the gendarmerie. Gendarmeria is a military corps. They take care of law, crowd control, security, etc. And they support the police. When I first came, I remember if you passed through a city at night, you would see a patrol on foot with an NCO of the Gendarmeria with two conscript gendarmes wearing this is urban camouflage. In fact, it's a kind of bluish, kind of light blue and grey, because this is perfect camouflage if you're in an urban environment where there's the colour of roads and cement. And we can see that they reintroduced, they used the traditional Romanian cap, capella, with the ear flaps, which was typically worn also during World War II. This is also a traditional uniform element of the Romanian army. So if we go back to the present day, since conscription was suspended, this uniform was changed. They have a very bland kind of kepi combat hats. They nowadays they've dropped so many elements, traditional elements of the Romanian look, and they've turned into a sort of clone of. They've lost the distinctive look. For example, if we go to Hungary, the Hungarian soldiers have got distinctive Hungarian elements in their uniform. The Italians the same, the French the same. So it's not to just be a clone, a NATO clone. It's not a good idea, because even when Romania was in the Warsaw Pact, it had a distinctive look, because this is very, very important. I mean, I'm a bit of an old-fashioned. I have a bit of some old-fashioned ideas on. Oh my, here he is again. Here's a fire brigade. Here's a fire brigade in action. Fire brigade. The fire brigade in action. Roman fire engine. I remember them wearing these green uniforms with these green plastic helmets. I think they were fiberglass. I saw them in action during a flood once, in 2005. Oh, hello, here they are again. Pure propaganda all over the place here. So, but we'll be looking through these magazines. But then there was lots of interesting articles inside. I actually found one, and I'll make another video about the Bucharest trams in another magazine. These are very, very interesting magazines, and I've got more of them here. This is the issue. This is very interesting. Patria Libera. This is the issue January 1990, after the revolution. This is a very interesting issue. We'll have a look at this one here. We'll dedicate a separate video. Here's some more recent ones here. We're getting. This is 1994. New Renault 19 police car. La Costanza number plate. Oh no, this is 1985, and we know who he is. Oh, by a very nasty car accident here. And these very gory images, sort of to teach people to drive properly. They don't seem to have succeeded yet, but the same thing, I can say the same thing about Italy. In general, humans think they are very smart, and then they get behind the wheel of a car and they go bonkers. Oh, this is 1989, November. Very interesting issue. 1 month before the revolution, things were about to go west for, well, that's a bit of a word game. Romania was about to, somebody was going to go west, and we know what that means. And also to go west, Romania turned west in a way. So it doesn't sounds a bit sarcastic, doesn't it? Oh, here's a very interesting other image of the Romanian. These are security troops, I think, by the blue collar patches. Here's their various So I'm going to catalogue these in order, chronological order, and have a good look at them. And I'm not going to, every now and again, we'll have a look at these things. So it's just something else. And this is, if anybody's been to Bucharest, that is the famous Casa Poporului, Ceausescu's slightly megalomaniac presidential palace, where a whole district was demolished on Dealul Arsenalului, the Arsenal's Hill, which was one of the districts that had not been damaged during the 1977 earthquake. So it was geologically stable, and so they flattened it to make this enormous structure, which now houses the parliament. The two branches of the Romanian parliament are housed in here. It's enormous. It's the biggest self-standing public building after the Pentagon in the United States. And it's interesting. Go to Bucharest and see this. It's quite something. Quite something. This is the Bulevardul Victoriei that leads to it, which the Boulevard of Victory. The original name was Bulevardul Victoriei Socialismului, meaning the Boulevard of the Victory of Socialism. After the revolution, they dropped the socialism. The internal troops reverted to their name of Gendarmeria, and the militia became the police. So that's our little trip through history. Here's another 1995 one. Oh, Arrow M24, and they've stopped somebody. Watch here. That's a Lada. This is a Lada. I recognize that Fiat vent there. This is a Lada, and that's an Arrow M24, 4x off-road vehicle. And it's very interesting to see the issues of the 1990s. You start seeing that, oh, here's a beautiful advert. Nico, Societatea Comercială Nico Serv SRL, Limited Company, spare parts, accessories, lubricants for Raba, Saviem, Aro and Dacia vehicles. Raba, into the heavy lorries that were generally called Raba, Roman, because they had the Raba license-built engines. Saviem, they had the Saviem French engines. Aro are the off-road vehicles. Dacia is, you know what Dacia is. And so this, I wonder what happened to this company. Nico, very interesting. So this is 1995. So we begin having adverts. There's no adverts before 1995. Planned economy, nothing to advertise. Okay, I hope I didn't bore you too much with these chats about Romanian history through the Pentru Patrie Ministry of Interior magazine, but definitely it's something quite interesting. Cheerio, and see you next time. Let's see what we could zoom on. Zoom on another one. Let's see, an interesting one here. And here's that 1994 policeman with the uniform that was introduced in the 90s. This kind of skiing anorak. Not that, this is in Bucharest. And yes, the sort of transition, the uniforms transition, in my opinion, from smart to sloppy nowadays, but this was still okay-ish. But I'm a bit old-fashioned in terms of uniforms. A uniform has to look like a uniform, not like... This is 1990. Here we can see already the new hats, new caps, these jackets, but we still see everything combined. It's a sort of transition from pre-89. Here's the M73 helmets. Here they're doing shooting target practice. Okay, cheerio, and see you next time. Oops. Let's go back here.